Hi guys, Rhoda here. Welcome to my channel and happy new month. So in the spirit of the month of February, which is known as the month of love, I thought I would try something new, and for this month I'm strictly going to be reviewing books which have to do with love. Now it can be self-love, it could be love in a marriage, it could be any kind of love, and I want to concentrate on the positive side of love, because I'm sure we're all tired of hearing about red flags. This one will be talking about green flags and also enjoying love as it is in its pure form. So for today, the first book I'm going to review is Color in Love by Bolu Babalola, and I'm super excited because I just started this book and I fell in love with it. So let's get into the video. This is her bio. Bolu Babalola is a British-Nigerian journalist, writer, and lover of love. In 2016, she was shortlisted in 4th Estate's BAME competition for her short story Netflix and Chill, a hilarious tale of teen romance. Whilst writing scripts for TV and film, she also works as a cultural commentator where she calls herself a rom-com. This is her debut anthology. The book is an anthology. So an anthology, for those who don't know, it's a collection of short stories, and this one has to do with mythical stories. So the mythical stories we've all grown up hearing, especially from different countries. Greek mythology, like she talks about goddesses in Ghana, in Nigeria, in the Middle East, and I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, so I'm just going to tell you what I think, and I'll just read a bit, but I won't tell you what exactly in detail what's going on, because I think some of the things that she said here really stood up for me. As per usual, African literature tends to do that, and I'm just going to read a passage from a story called it's about the goddess Scheherzade, and she's known in the Middle East, because after I read each and every single story, I kind of had to Google to see what exactly this person was about, and it kind of turns out these are actually myths. So even there are people like Nerfetiti, there are people like Osun, there's Ya, there's Tiara, there's Orin. So if you're someone who's familiar with these things, this could be outstanding for you. So what she did with these stories, she modernized them so that they're easier to, and it's easier for us to understand, especially people in this generation. And also it kind of intrigues the mind for you to actually see that their powers, or what the goddesses are known for, it actually comes in a modern way, and I think that was super brilliant. So I'm just going to read a short part from one of my favorites, and this has to do with Scheherzade. I hope I'm saying this correctly, but so this is after, in this story, she's a woman who's met someone, but she doesn't want to be attached to someone because, will have issues. So she's portraying a modern day woman, those who don't want to get attached because they don't want to get hurt. So she self-sabotages, and then she kisses her ex while she's still, sorting things out with this new guy. And then when she breaks it down to the guy, because she thought he was going to leave her, because this whole love thing was new to her, so she felt like she had to push him away. And then what really stood out for me was what he said. For someone whose love language is, words of affirmation, it's up there. I was really touched by this. And if you're someone who's into this, I'm pretty sure you also love this. So this is what the guy says after she tells her that she's kissed her ex-boyfriend and she was ready for him to break up. And then this is what he says. Okay, here's the thing. I like this. I like us. I think you like this, and you like us too. I think this could be a lot easier if you stop sabotaging and manipulating yourself out of it. I know you told me that you hooked up with someone else thinking I would get mad and end this, but I won't be the one to do that. It has to be you. I'm not a political pawn that you can mold and shape. I'm a man who is in love with you. You can't do what you do out there in here. He gestured to the space between them. In here, it's us. In here, it's sacred. You and me. Don't insult us by doing that. If you want to call it quits, then do it. But I won't let you make me do it. If you want to walk out right now, do it. But you're not going to make me push you out. I thought this was a love story, but if it isn't, tell me I'm wrong. If I'm right though, I can promise you that I will never end with me leaving you. I will want you forever. I stared at him across the table with my eyes glistening. I hadn't known my tear ducts still worked until then. What a way to find out. So this one really stood out for me. Like, I really liked how like he assured her. And if you read back, or if you research on what exactly she was known for, she was a storyteller. So in this story, she's actually telling a story. It's more of a flashback, but I won't ruin it for you as to why and who exactly she was telling. So this was one of my favorite stories. I'll also talk about my second favorite story because I'm trying not to ruin it for everyone. It was like, I really like this book. Honestly, I think so far, out of the books I've read and finished, this is number one so far. So yeah. So the part which I'm going to read from this story about Ya, she's a goddess known in Ghana. So she modernized it, of course. Like, I'm probably sure this is based on Ya Asantewa. So she was a queen in Ghana, and then she went into exile. I think it was in Seychelles, and then she came back, and then they buried her in Ghana. And I also remembered her from when I read Homegoing by Ya Gassi, when she was saying that, like, because there's a story, I'm forgetting her name now, but the woman who was called the Mad Woman, this kind of Ya is known around that era. I think it was I'm not going to lie, but was like way back. So this story, it kind of like, she was a queen, she wasn't goddess, sorry. So it kind of like portrays her life, but it's in a modern way. So this is after, in this book this is after she meets an old lover, an old flame who she still had feelings for, but she had forgotten, and she was on a date. She was with someone else who she had been with a long time. You know, those people who we've always known they're going to marry that certain person because of family. You know, when they're growing up, they're called only to wife, and you know, they've been born like they know they're going to get married. I'm not familiar with it, but the other people have been put into these contracts, like arranged marriage. Exactly, that's what I was looking for. It was an arranged marriage, but they were not compatible in the sense that the woman, she had more ambition, but the guy, because of course he was like super rich and he had all this ambition, he kind of like wanted to dim her light, and he wasn't the right match for her. Even the best friend ended up asking, are you sure you want to marry him? Because of the picture, they wanted to, like, you know, have this picture perfect thing. She was like, oh, I just know I want to marry him, I just know, you know. So this is after she meets like a college lover, like when they used to date before. So I'm just going to read you the part. What I liked about this part is not more to do with like the characters, but it was like the use of language to evoke emotion. How exactly she literally evoked my emotion. Like when I was reading this, I could feel like I was Ya, you know. So I'll read it for you so that you can, you know, decide for yourself. Yaya, the low, familiar voice pierced into her curled. Oh, by the way, she's in a taxi, so the old lover is the one who's driving her, but she hasn't seen his face, so he just says her name the way he used to say it, like a pet name. Okay, so Yaya, the low, familiar voice pierced into her, curled around her heart, and squeezed so hard that Yaya gasped. Only one person called her Yaya. It was her, doubled over. Her at her fullest. It was a nickname that tasted like a sugarcane whiskey laced kiss, both indulgent and intoxicating. Yaya. The name had been buried for so long, suffocated really, that when it was freed, it took up all the air in the car, made it difficult for Ya to breathe. The screen of her phone began to blur as she looked up to meet the eyes of the hitch driver. She needn't have looked to verify. She knew the odds of this happening were far too unlikely for it to be happening. It was a terrible joke, a torturous irony that would have made her laugh if she hadn't been its victim. Maybe she would laugh tomorrow. Maybe this could be a bachelorette antidote. There was a version of her that wanted to slip out of the car at the stoplight and run back to her apartment, but that part of her was becoming less realistic with every second that passed. That version of her was beginning to feel like an imposter. Every inch of her was in a state of remembrance, reshaping itself to a former form, just at the sound of his voice. She looked up. Adric. There were two people in the world who knew her. the potent her, the essence of her, and the honest her. One was Abina, her best friend and spirit sister. The other was the man whose eyes were currently sliding from soft, warm surprise to something colder, a forced distance. He nodded. She could see the tension in his face, the tightening in the sharp jaw. She used to enjoy sliding a finger across, raining kisses down the trail. I saw the name on the app, but I didn't figure it would actually be. He paused and looked at her in the windscreen mirror. I knew it was you when you got into the car, but I didn't know if it was best to pretend I didn't recognize you or to say something. Then you swore, and well, I always liked it when you swore. Really disgusting stuff, extremely graphic, poetic, really. Ya laughed and felt the knot in her belly begin to listen. She saw his shoulders hitch up in a shrug. Yeah, just came out. Sorry. She swallowed. Don't be. You're the only one who ever called me that. You will always be the only one who will ever call me that. Ya and Adric first met. Oh no, I'm not going to read that part. So I just wanted you guys to have a feel of the use of diction to evoke emotion. I know I talk about this a lot, and I think this is actually my first time reading how she uses words to evoke emotion, how she's saying, the way she gasped, the low familiar voice pierced into her, curling around her heart and squeezed so hard that she had gasped. It's something that you feel, but you don't really know how to explain, and I'm so grateful for people who know how to describe this. So this is what stood out for me for this story, and I'm not going to read any further because I don't want to ruin it for you. So yeah, so the last story, or part of the story that I'm going to read, is Psyche. So if you're familiar with Greek mythology, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Hera, with is it with Eros. And when I actually looked it up, it talks about Eros gets married to Psyche. She's not a goddess, but she was a human who ended up having powers or growing wings. So it's modernized in the sense that I think his sister or the other gods, Greek mythology, they didn't want him to marry her. So this is modernized in a way that it seemed like he ghosted her. So they shared a kiss, and then after a month the guy just ghosts her, but they work in the same place. So I'm just going to read how I explained to her what exactly happened. And what I like about this is just emotion. I think this is how most people end up falling in love with the fictional characters. I don't blame them, okay? They will be saying some of the nicest things, so I don't blame you if you've fallen in love with a fictional character. I think I've fallen in love with a few, but anyway, so I'm going to read this part. So this is when he's trying to make up with her at the end, explaining why he ended up ghosting her. Okay, so here it goes. Eros swallowed. No, I got it a while back for when you got your promotion. The playful smile melted on Sai's face as her upper lips parted slightly, her eyes glistening. What? Seriously? Eros shrugged. I knew you would get it, Sai. I knew something would happen for you. I knew that you would shoot your shot and news would be a hit because you're smart and brave and incredible. Speaking of, I feel like we need to talk about earlier. Sai shook her head, still looking slightly dazed as she scooped a tear up from the corner of her eye. Yeah, I think we do. You're really sweet, the sweetest guy I've ever met, and that's part of the problem. You can't keep doing things like this and expect me to forget the kiss ever happened just because you have. It's not fair. Sai's chin lowered and her voice cracked, and Eros' heart cracked with it. Okay. Though he still hadn't discovered the formulation of words that would accurately convey how he felt, he realized that it didn't matter. All he needed to do was to prevent there being any more moments where Sai didn't know that she was the most important thing to him. He stepped closer to her. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Sai. I didn't forget about it. I hadn't forgotten about it. It's all I've been able to think about for 6 months. It's killing me that she'd think it was nothing to me because it was everything to me. Venice found out about us and said that if I pursued anything with you, she would fire you. Venus is his sister. She sent me away. I didn't talk to you for a month because I didn't think there was any way I could talk to you without letting you know how I feel about you. I just felt like it was easier if I just pretended that it didn't happen. But even saying that out loud sounds stupid and selfish. And I'm sorry for making you feel like it didn't matter. I think deep down I was kind of relieved because it meant that I didn't have a chance to mess this up and or let you down or give you a chance to see something in me that you didn't like. I was insecure and an idiot. Anyway, I quit. It was actually before your meeting. I went straight to HR. I realized that Venus had power over me because I let her believe that she did. But mainly, I realized that there was no real way she was actually going to fire you. You're powerful and she fears that keeping you under her control benefited her. Besides, I talked to my mate Aris in the legal department, the big guy I play basketball with on Thursdays, and he said that. Psyche said it Aris incredulously and inched closer to him. Wait, I'm still digesting. She blackmailed you? Also, you quit? For me? That's insane. You know she's going to blackball you, right? Why would you do that? Eros shrugged. I'm in love with you, Sai. Also, my sister is a witch. But yeah, it's mostly the first part. I'm pretty sure you're the love of my life. And like your face. And I like when words come out of your face. Sorry that didn't sound romantic at all. Is it hot out here? Sai's eyes prickling and she breathes into a smile. No, but I guess this is a very intense conversation and it isn't even 12 yet. So yeah, I really like this. You know, she also showed like the guys not being nonchalant and also like having that sweet side in them, and I think that was very important. So in the spirit of love, guys, if you really want something to lift up your mood, because it is very many different stories from around the world, I think this is a very incredible book, especially if you're someone who's just looking for something to read. I would highly recommend this for leisure, for the fun of it, just for you to like, especially if you've heard these stories about the goddesses and you kind of know the history. I think it's quite nice for you to see them in a modern way, in a modern picture. Quite relatable. So I really enjoyed this and I hope you guys will also enjoy this, and thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, goodbye.